Okay, welcome back again to the SDSU Speech and Debate channel. Today we're talking about the basic structure to construct a policy debate case on the government side, and we're specifically going to be using the stock issues format. So as far as formats are concerned, this one is generally used a little bit more by some of the novices, but we're going to be using this just as a foundational tool. So this is one of the main places that people start, and it's one of the most frequently used overall. So basically what happens is, for a policy resolution, again, you're given some type of issue that's advocating a certain position. So it's advocating some type of change to the status quo. Okay, so once you've identified that you have a policy resolution, then you can construct your case. So first thing that you're going to do in that case, of course, you're going to get up there, you're going to give some thank yous. After that, you get right into your support for the resolution. So we're here to support whatever your resolution is that we think there should be, whatever that change that's being advocated. Okay, so then you get into your definitions. So observation one is usually definitions. Here you're going through the definitions of that resolution, and you're going to be interpreting them for us. Now your goal here is to be providing an interpretation that's going to best support your case. So if you can make the interpretation somewhat creative, then cool. A lot of times there's no wiggle room in some of the resolutions. So again, the more honest you can be with the resolution, the better. But a lot of times there are issues that can be used for somewhat vague resolutions, and that should be fair game. Okay, so you go through and you define some of the key words, or if you want to just say that this is going to be defined through the plan, or it's going to be contextually defined, sometimes teams choose to do that as well. Okay, so once you've done that, then you can go to observation 2, which is going to be your criterion. Alright, your criterion is going to be the way that the round is going to be weighed. So generally with a policy case, the most common criterion that individuals give is the criterion of net benefits. So what you need to do once you've given that criterion is you explain what that really means. So generally on the government side, what that means is that by passing the government's plan, it's going to have more positive things than negative things that will happen as the outcome. Okay, so that brings us to the harms. So the first thing that you're going to do is identify a problem that currently exists in the status quo. Okay, so you've got something that's a big issue, something that should be large enough for us to care about, and it's something that's also not going to fix itself. So first thing that you do is you let us know what that problem is, and then you show how that directly relates to the resolution. Okay, once you've done that, then you give us your inherency, so showing how that problem is not going to fix itself, how that problem is existing in the status quo, and how it's not going to go away on its own. Okay, once you've established that there is a large and significant problem, and you've shown that that problem is not going to go away on its own, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to give us the plan. Okay, there's a couple of different ways that individual coaches and different people believe that a plan should be given. But one of the most common ways is to give us some planks, and we'll go through some of those. But first thing that you want to do is just give a brief summary of what your plan is going to do. So just a brief plan text. So our plan is going to pass a bill through Congress that will da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so you give us the people who are going to be doing the plan. So who's your actor? How are they going to do the plan? Through what means? What are the mandates? So what's actually going to happen? What are they actually going to do? Who's enforcing this? So who's actually going to be making sure that all of this happens? And what's the time frame going to be? Now, right now as I'm recording this isn't an election year. So people are actually saying, okay, if you don't give a time frame and it's 2 weeks before a presidential election, that's a very big deal, because the time when this is going to be implemented is actually very significant as to whether or not we should do it. Should we wait? If we do it now, will there be consequences? And a lot of those consequences can actually link into disadvantages on the opposition side. So time frame is very important at this given moment that I'm recording this. And then also you're going to give us funding. Now the most common way that you explain funding is you say through normal means. If it's just a bill or something that's going to be passed as part of, say, a congressman's daily job, normal means is usually sufficient. If you're going to be funding something that will cost billions and billions of dollars, you may need to go into detail here, but for the most part, funding is usually a pretty insignificant issue in most policy debates, just because that's kind of the way that it currently is in the debate circuit. Okay, so once you've given us the different phases of the plan, then you get into your solvency. Here what you're going to do is specifically explain how that plan will go about solving the problem that you've presented in your harms. Okay, so you specifically say why it will do it, how it will do it, and you're giving us some critical analysis as to solutions that have worked in the past that are similar to this, if maybe it's just common sense that would fix it, if you're giving us logic, if it really does have a cause and effect relationship, but somehow you're making us believe that plan is actually going to solve for that harm. Okay, this is very important. This is one of your burdens, is to solve for your harm, and you really need to make sure that you give us some reasoning as to why that makes sense. Okay? Once you've gone through your solvency and you've told us why we should care, how it's actually going to fix that problem, you can go on to your advantages. Now this is called sometimes unique advantages, sometimes just advantages, but basically what you're doing here, it's very similar to the structure of a disadvantage on the opposition side. First thing you're going to do is describe a situation, okay? So some coaches will say describe it and label it as the status quo. Some will say label it as the brink. Some will say label it as uniqueness. But basically what you're doing in this first point here is you're describing a situation that currently exists. Okay, the next step is you're going to give us a link. So in this link, you're going to be providing analysis as to how that plan passing will change that situation that you just described earlier on. Okay, and then the next thing that you do is, after you've shown how it's going to change it, then you let us know why we should care. So this is your impact. Some teams like to call this not the impact, but the implication. Okay, so this is again why we should care, the reasons why this is important. All right, so you can give a lot of different unique advantages or advantages here using this structure. Just give us a situation. Through the link, show us how that plan's going to change that situation. And then with your impact or your implication, you're going to show us why we should care. Okay, so this particular structure is very similar to quite a few different structures in debate, but overall that's kind of the basics. So first thing you do, you give us some definitions. Second thing that you do, you give us a criterion. Third, you get into a big problem. You tell us why that's important. Fourth, you give us a plan and show us how that works. Then you give us solvency and you say how that plan is going to solve for that harm. And then with the advantages, you show us a bunch of good things that would actually come through by passing this plan. Okay, so I urge you to, if you haven't already, go to sdsuforensics.com. Got a lot of good stuff on there. Most of it's compiled from a lot of different sites, but it's definitely all together in one spot. And we look forward to having you. Thank you so much.